Hello, good evening. Thanks for being with us tonight here on The Hill. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. Vladimir Putin, soon set to be on American soil, speaking today inside Russia. And here in Washington, President Trump today with this prediction.
I think very important for Russia, and it's going to be very important for us, and important for us only that we're going to save a lot of lives. I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelensky will make peace. We'll see if they can get along. And if they can, it'll be great.
Also tonight, the president continuing his crackdown on crime right here in the nation's capital. We'll show you the new numbers and the new movement. Plus, this new move from that guy right there, the California governor, Gavin Newsom, why he's calling for a new election in California. His taunting of Trump continuing as well, by the way. And another dueling duo. We didn't think we'd be at this point, but here we are. Hunter Biden, Melania Trump. What Hunter is saying tonight about the First Lady and the billion-dollar threat. But first tonight, here from The Hill, we are live in Alaska, a live look there in Anchorage. We are also live tonight in Ukraine, ahead of the face-to-face meeting between President Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin. Our Robert Sherman tonight on how Putin is playing this up. But first to our Kelly Meyer live on the ground there in Anchorage. Kelly?
Yeah, hey there, Blake. President Trump feeling cautiously optimistic about this face-to-face tomorrow right here with this beautiful backdrop here in Anchorage. But critics are saying that everything here is already pre-baked Alaska. So President Trump speaking today in the Oval Office saying that he will know within the first 2 to 5 minutes whether this is a good or bad meeting. He says if it's a good meeting, that there will be peace soon. He also mentioned how this has been much more difficult to solve, this war, than he had thought when he came into office and wanted to solve this on day one. There's also speculation here that President Trump will give Putin access to Alaska's mineral resources. President Trump saying today we'll see what happens. Critics again say that Trump is giving away too much with this visit, having it here on U.S. soil, and they don't think that he's going to put Ukraine first. Take a listen to this.
All I want to do is set the table for the next meeting, which should happen shortly. I'd like to see it happen very quickly, very shortly after this meeting. I'd like to see it actually happen maybe in Alaska, where we just stay because it's so much easier. But I think that it's going to be very interesting. We're going to find out where everybody stands, and I'll know within the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes.
And we'll be heading over to the joint base where the two will be meeting tomorrow. The two leaders meeting face-to-face, one-on-one there. We are on the eve of this historic moment to find out whether or not the president can cut a deal here in Alaska. Blake?
Kelly, what a view behind there that you have in Anchorage tonight. I got to imagine that the folks there on the ground, this is a bit different for them, not used to all the attention. Two presidential visits, especially this fashion, the way that this is all playing out. What are they saying there in Alaska tonight?
Yeah, and even when we were on the joint base earlier, talking with folks there, I mean, just think about the speed at which this came together too, Blake. I mean, just finding out last week when he announced that this was going to be happening in Alaska, and then we found out that it was going to be at the joint base, the speed at which they had to get together and get the security. And of course, they're doing it at the air base or the joint base where there's already a lot of security. But folks there, surprised, but a lot of people, excited and curious to see what happens here. But of course, Alaska has that historical significance. It was previously Russian territory and then sold to the U.S. So there's a lot of parallels here. And even the president saying it's a good place for even a potential second summit, which could include Zelensky. Blake?
Yeah, we'll see if it gets there. Kelly Meyer live for us tonight. In the last frontier, Kelly, thanks so much. Now to the other part of the world. Our Robert Sherman live tonight in Ukraine on what the world leaders are saying in that region. Robert?
Hey there, Blake. Well, it's a different story out here in Ukraine. Just a few moments ago, we had air raid sirens going off, and the clock is now just past 1 o'clock in the morning here, which means it's officially Friday. The day of that summit has already arrived here in Ukraine between Russian President Vladimir Putin and President Trump. And this is the day where the president says it's all about determining, are the Russians for real or is this all smoke and mirrors? Well, today, Russian President Vladimir Putin said they are coming to Alaska earnestly, and they do believe diplomacy can prevail. Here's the Russian president today.
The current American administration, which, as everyone knows, is making, in my opinion, quite energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities.
But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky not sold, warning President Trump of the possibility that Russia attempts to deceive him and emphasizing they have no intention of backing down or giving Russia any awards for their invasion, namely in the form of territories. What you are watching in eastern Ukraine tonight, Blake, is an intensification of the fighting taking place in the Donetsk region. And the Ukrainians are gearing up for the possibility of a large-scale offensive being carried out by the Russians in the days after that Alaska summit there. They believe Russia will up the pressure in the coming days and attempt to try and grab as much land as possible to bolster their negotiating position as these conversations proceed forward. Blake?
Our Robert Sherman live in Kyiv, Ukraine tonight. Robert, thank you. Joining us now, Ambassador William Taylor served as ambassador to Ukraine in the George W. Bush administration later as well, in a different role, but similar one in the Trump administration too. And Mr. Ambassador, thanks for being with us tonight. Kelly just laid some of it out. Robert just laid some of it out. Two very different spots of the world. I don't think it was coincidental, and I'd love your opinion on the idea of what we saw today. Both President Trump and Vladimir Putin getting before the cameras and trying to make their own message heard. What did you take away from that?
So, Blake, my sense is that President Trump has a real advantage going into these conversations. He's got cards, as he says. He has the ability to put pressure on President Putin to come to the table for a ceasefire. That's what we're looking for. That's what President Trump has talked about getting, is a ceasefire. Stop the killing. These other things on territory, those or other issues like reconstruction and compensation and accountability and returning all the prisoners of war, those things need to happen as well, but they are only discussed with the Ukrainians. But
you don't expect you don't expect a ceasefire to come out of this conversation, though, right?
I expect President Trump to be putting pressure on President Putin to, yes, come to the table to negotiate a ceasefire. A ceasefire is complicated. It can't be done in one meeting, but it can be a commitment. And I think President Trump has the ability to push Putin to do that. And as he says, Trump says, he'll know within 5 minutes whether Putin is there. And if he's not, then the sanctions come.
So you believe that the president will know within moments. The president believes that he'll know within moments as well. But he also suggested this today. I want to roll it and get your reaction on the other side.
The more important meeting will be the second meeting that we're having. We're going to have a meeting with President Putin, President Zelensky, myself, and maybe we'll bring some of the European leaders along, maybe not. I don't know that it's going to be very important. We're going to see what happens. And I think President Putin will make peace.
So what's the goal here? Is it to make progress, or is it really to have this meeting, to set up a meeting to actually put Putin and Zelensky in the same room together at some point in time?
The goal, Blake, has to be a ceasefire. And President Trump can get Putin to agree to come to the table to talk about a ceasefire with President Zelensky. So the meeting with President Zelensky is going to be important. A ceasefire, by definition, has two sides. You have to have both sides there. And any conversation of where the ceasefire is going to be has to be with the Ukrainian president. So I think President Trump's exactly right. The more important of the two meetings is the second one, where you get Trump and Zelensky and Putin in the room.
When do you think that happens? I know I say when, but if/when. When would that be?
I listened to the president, and he says maybe right away. Maybe do it right there in Anchorage over the next several days. No idea.
So you think he could stay and they could fly Zelensky in and they're all sort of there for a couple days? Maybe. I don't know.
You could be right, but I will tell you that it's not easy getting in or out of Ukraine. So if President Zelensky right now is in Kyiv, I'm not sure he is, but if he is, he's got to take an overnight train to get to Warsaw and then fly to Anchorage. So it takes some work.
Here was the president today speaking. He made those comments in the Oval Office, obviously. He also gave a radio interview today. Want to get your reaction on the other side.
It's like a chess game. This meeting sets up the second meeting. But there is a 25% chance that this meeting will not be a successful meeting, in which case I will run the country, and we have made America great again already in 6 months.
So he's basically given this, Ambassador, sort of a 75-25 shot in his view, if you sort of take away from what he said there. You think that's right?
75% chance of getting Putin to sit down to talk about a ceasefire, that's a pretty good percentage. That's good. 25% Putin says no. And then President Trump has the decision how to push him to the table, how to push Putin to the table by putting these sanctions on that he's talking about, by providing more weapons to the Ukrainians. President Trump has the ability to end this fighting, end this killing, and it's going to take pressure on Trump, on Putin. And Trump will know whether it's going to happen very soon.
We have a graphic here, ceasefires violated by Vladimir Putin. It's a story that is that's fairly common, and you know this, Ambassador. But for all the talk about Vladimir Putin and what he may or may not do or should do or could do and what this discussion might be like, you know Vladimir Zelensky fairly well. You've had some interactions with him, as I understand it. What do you expect out of him in the coming days?
President Zelensky, whom I know reasonably well, I've had many meetings with him, he has made it very clear that he needs a security guarantee, real security guarantee, if he signs a ceasefire. He's worried, President Zelensky is worried, that if there's a ceasefire without a security guarantee, the Russians will invade again, just like your graphic just showed.
Yeah.
They point to 17 different violations in the Minsk agreement. So President Zelensky needs a security guarantee from the Europeans who are talking about it. The Germans, French, and British are talking about a coalition of the willing to put troops on the ground, Blake, in Ukraine to enforce a ceasefire. That could happen.
The obvious question, if Vladimir Putin gets one from American media tomorrow, is if there is some sort of a ceasefire, why should anyone trust that you will abide by it once Donald Trump is out of office 40 months from now? I'll leave it there. We'll see if he's asked that and what he may or may not say. William Taylor, former ambassador to Ukraine, thanks for being with us tonight here on the Hill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Blake.
Of course, special coverage, by the way, of the Trump-Putin summit. Tomorrow, it all starts 6 o'clock Eastern right here on the Hill, followed by Elizabeth at 7, a 2-hour special of On Balance with Leland at 8. Then I'll be back 10 o'clock Eastern, take you to midnight tomorrow night on a Friday night. You won't want to miss it right here on NewsNation. But before then, and still to come tonight here on the Hill, the unlikely dueling duo, Hunter Biden, Melania Trump. The lawsuit and the not-so-PG response today from one of them. Plus this.
No way. We'll fight him tooth and nail.
Speaking of not-so-PG, that's Chuck Schumer. He says no. Trump says yes. Will the National Guard stay long-term in Washington? And is he trying to out-Trump Trump, that guy right there, Gavin Newsom, the California governor, why he announced a new election today in his state? And he is starting to write in all caps. I'm Blake Berman. I thank you for being with us tonight. We're back on the other side of the break here on the Hill in 4 minutes. All right, welcome back tonight. First Family's feud. The rift between the Trumps and the Bidens now taking a new turn. The First Lady Melania Trump threatening to sue Hunter Biden for $1 billion. Over comments that he made in a YouTube video that was posted earlier this month.
Well, they knew each other well. They spent an enormous time together. According to his biographer, is that Jeffrey Epstein introduced Melania. That's how Melania and the First Lady and the President met.
Really? Yeah. Epstein made the intro.
Yeah, according to Michael Wolff.
All right, so that was Hunter Biden citing Michael Wolff, who had conducted numerous interviews with Epstein. Trump, for a long time, no fan of Wolff. A letter from the First Lady's lawyer to Biden demands an immediate retraction of the, quote, false, disparaging, defamatory, and inflammatory statements.
We're here maybe to give you the platform to apologize to the First Lady for your statements that you made about her possible connection to Jeffrey Epstein.
that. That's not going to happen.
You heard it there. The former first son today refusing to retract what he said. Trying to make sense of all this, Scott Bolden, NewsNation contributor, and Lauren Wright. Hello, Lauren, NewsNation contributor as well. Professor, I'll get to you in a second. Counselor, let me start here because this is $1 billion threat. The First Lady says, take it all back. What does Hunter need to do?
They need to start their own reality show, quite frankly.
Okay.
The lawyer's letter's not going anywhere. He could file suit. But Hunter Biden, you just ran the clip. Hunter Biden is repeating what's been said by not only Jeffrey Epstein, but by Michael Wolff already. In fact, he references Michael Wolff. And so when you have high-profile people who are public figures, the standard of proving defamation takes on a higher standard. You have to have knowledge of its falsity and then intentionally and purposefully publish it originally. Here, he's just repeating what's been written and what's been said. And by the way, what's so offensive in and of itself as to whether Jeffrey Epstein introduced them or not?
Oh, you know, come on, that would be no. I mean, if I said Scott Bolden was, met someone through Jeffrey Epstein, you wouldn't want any of that.
Well, I do white collar criminal defense work, so I got a lot of clients I may not be connected to other than legally. Right. But on its face, it's just not defamatory, if you will. Other statements with it may be defamatory with some explanation.
Lauren, you do a lot of work on celebrities. Obviously, the First Lady has been that among many things for quite some time. Hunter Biden going after her.
It's just such a bad idea. I mean, why do it? Why do it? He's tried to sort of shore up his dad's legacy, and I think when he appears relatively unhinged defending the Biden administration and talking about what went wrong with the Harris campaign, people say, okay, I kind of get it. It's a son defending his dad, but why get into this? And if anything, my research on celebrities, including First Ladies, has taught me is you don't go after the First Lady. It never ends well. And I know Scott has the legal perspective. I don't have that, but I can offer you the political perspective. Not good for Hunter Biden or the Biden family.
So, Scott, Hunter Biden obviously received a pardon, 7-8 months ago at this point in time, earlier this year. Is this him just thinking on that, like he feels that he's above everything at this point?
Well, he can't be criminally prosecuted for what he was pardoned for. But listen, this is Hunter Biden not going after, not supporting his dad per se, but going after Donald Trump and Epstein and trying to settle some scores because he's been free now to speak post-Biden's presidency, and he's trying to settle some scores here. It sounds like he's going after Melania, but he really isn't. He's trying to link Epstein and keep that story going with Donald Trump, and Melania just happens to be a vehicle from which he can do that. I don't endorse it, but that's what he's doing.
Lauren, I'm going to give you the last word here, and given your work on First Ladies, I wonder what you think happens from here.
Well, the thing people misunderstand about First Ladies is they think there's some kind of benevolent volunteer outsider. I mean, this is the person that shares the life of the President of the United States. It's the closest person to him, no matter how you slice it, with the most information and the most access. And they are astute political actors, whether they make mistakes, and Melania Trump has made many in her first term and perhaps will in her second, but they're more popular than the president. They get, they get sort of some grace when it comes to public opinion. It's just not the sort of person that you want to tango with, I guess is how I put it, Blake.
Hunter, Melania, didn't think we'd be here, but here we are.
Something for everyone. Something for everyone in this story.
Here we are.
I'm glad to be with Lauren and Scott. Scott, catch you later in the show. Lauren, thank you. Talk to you soon.
I'll see you, Lauren.
Bye.
All right, still to come tonight here on The Hill. Tense moments. This just happened several minutes ago, just down the road from us here in Washington. Federal authorities clearing out homeless camps. This could be happening more and more throughout the evening, we are hearing potentially. What's happening in Washington at this moment? Live on the other side. Plus, the president says this town is cooking the books when it comes to crime.
Whoever it was, they asked the numbers to be fudged so that it would show less crime than the fact. The fact is, it's worse than it's ever been.
And out west, Gavin Newsom. The feud escalating today with the president. Newsom now is trying to out-Trump Trump. I'm going to show you it, what he's saying and what he's writing. Stay with us. All right, welcome back here to the Hill. 6:30 here in Washington tonight as hundreds of federal agents, including the National Guard, now patrolling the streets of the nation's capital in a crime crackdown that President Trump hopes will be a model for other cities across the country. The president is accusing his critics of fudging the numbers.
And sadly, what I guess the mayor did, but whoever it was, they asked the numbers to be fudged so that it would show less crime than the fact. The fact is, it's worse than it's ever been.
So we took a look at the numbers. Here's where things have stood really since the turn of the century here in the nation's capital. This is according to the Washington Post and the FBI. This is the murder rate. Again, taking you back to this January of 2000. Dropped, then about a decade ago, started rising, and then dropped again. Okay? That's just the picture of the last 25 years or so. But I want to take you now to a similar story as it relates to vehicle thefts. For example, here's the chart there. Again, dropped, picked back up, and now we've seen a little bit of a decrease. But this is the window here, the last 10 years or so, when you look at it, that you've had an increase and then that little bit of a drop there. Now the administration is touting arrests in just the last 24, 48 hours. Or Joe Khalil live in D.C. Joe, I hear there's a little bit of action there behind you. They're breaking up homeless camps? What's going on?
Yeah, so we were given some notice that around this time that this would be part of this federalization of the D.C. government is to clear out all of the homeless encampments. Right now, in front of the Martin Luther King Jr. Library, Blake, it's one of the areas where you still have sort of an active encampment area. And just a couple of minutes ago, we saw law enforcement in pretty big numbers come over this way and actually start to at least alert people that this was happening. There was a van that just left a minute or so ago. It was a shelter transport van. At least 2 people got into it. You can see all of the law enforcement vehicles behind us. This is all D.C. Metro. There were also some health officials that were here and that were explaining to some of the people that are out on the streets here what their options were. We talked to one homeless man who told us that his options were not great. He doesn't want to go to a shelter. The sort of silver lining here, Blake, is that just a couple of days ago, D.C. did not have enough shelter space for all of the people to clear out these encampments. We are told now that they opened up some 200 extra emergency shelter beds. So that's a step in the right direction, but still going to be a challenge. These encampments have not been removed yet, but we anticipate, because as you can see here, and I'm going to just turn you around, all of the law enforcement that's present here. And again, it was a pretty active scene as they started to all come up all at once, that is what's going to happen, that these encampments are going to be taken away, and that all of the people who are sleeping here are going to be given that ultimatum to either go to the shelter, potentially if they don't face jail time or fines, Blake.
Wow, our Joe Khalil live tonight on the streets in Washington here in our nation's capital. Joe, thank you. Joining me now, Mick Mulvaney, NewsNation contributor, former Trump White House chief of staff, and Lindsey Granger, co-host of Rising on the Hill, NewsNation contributor as well. Mick, hello, sir. Lindsey, hello. Thank you both. I'm going to start with I want to start with you, Lindsey, because I was thinking about this today. This is being framed as a crackdown on crime.
Right.
And I'm watching Democrats push back on that, and I wonder if that's falling into a trap a little bit from your party.
Well, I'm hearing that people are, constantly responding with that the crime is not out of hand, looking at numbers, but you cannot compete with people's feelings. So people who live here have said, multiple people, that they feel uncomfortable with where crime is. And I've seen some of that happen with friends of mine. But I think that when you're risking over-policing and thinking about what you're doing in a neighborhood, like eroding trust or opening the door to programs like Stop and Frisk, where naturally we saw that certain things happen that lead to racially profiling folks and different circumstances come up from doing these kind of things, you have to be very careful about what actual strategy you're putting in place. And I think that Muriel Bowser has done a good job of saying, yes, we would love the help, but I think it would have been way better if President Trump had gone in and asked, did she want the help and how, and maybe provided some solutions first, like community policing or like finding homes to put all the homeless people in and not finding 200 slots like we just heard Joe Khalil say, instead of while you're in the middle of kicking them off the street and pushing them to Virginia. So I think there's a lot that could be handled differently here.
Mick, this is obviously the focus right now is Washington, but the president has talked about Los Angeles, Chicago, Oakland, Baltimore. Do you suspect he goes there?
Well, probably not, at least not in the same way. Washington, D.C. is different. It's not an ordinary city. It's certainly not a city in a state. And the federal government controls the District of Columbia. Now, they have given some authority to local government through the Home Rule Act, and I get all of that, but this is a different thing. It is its own thing. But I was watching Joe Khalil's presentation just there, his report, and I couldn't help but think to myself this, Blake, and to Lindsay as well. If Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C., was doing this, would it be getting national attention? Would it be decried as something awful? Or would people be saying, you know what? That's a pretty good idea. Is it just because it's Donald Trump that some people think it's wonderful and some people think it's horrible? I got the feeling that if a Democrat mayor was doing this, everybody'd be okay with it.
But also, Mick, you have to understand that you have to let local authorities govern, and that's the whole stance of the Republican Party. So that's the confusing part to me, because they also passed the Secure D.C. Act last year that Muriel Bowser signed off on, and that one was actually effective in reducing crime, getting us to the point that we are right now, which is a 30-year low for crime in D.C. So I don't understand why this is happening right now. It's just the confusion when you have places all over Tennessee that have much higher crime rates, or than just D.C. It's just an odd place to start, and it seems like a distraction more than an actual policy that's going to be put in place.
To be clear, Muriel Bowser wouldn't sign off on anything that Congress did. That's not how it works, right? I mean, the Congress passes the laws and Muriel Bowser, runs the city from time to time. But the reason it's different than Tennessee, I think, Lindsay, is because it's Washington, D.C. And what the federal government can do is different here than it is every place else. You've already seen Donald Trump say, look, I know I can only do this for 30 days. I got to go back to Congress after this. I hope they give me more authority, et cetera. I don't know if they will or not, but this is its own thing. It's one of the things we don't teach anymore. Since we don't teach civics, people don't know that Washington, D.C. is different, but it just is.
All right. Well, maybe I don't know if they teach economics anymore. Mick, I want to take a U-turn here.
Yeah,
I make you chuckle, but I think I'm about to make you frown, because this just popped. Totally different story. But it just popped this afternoon. Show the headline. This comes from Bloomberg. Trump administration said to discuss taking stake in Intel, a deal that would shore up Intel's planned facility hub in Ohio, and the government would have a potential stake in the company, the size unclear. And I'm sitting there, Mick, and I'm going, wait a second. We cover Zoran Mamdani on this show a lot. Democrats and part of the Democratic Party want city-owned grocery stores. Now part of the Republican Party wants federal-owned Fortune 500 companies. That's both sides coming together.
Let's take the Bloomberg story at face value and assume it's true. So it could come out tomorrow that the administration denies it, but let's assume it's true. It's insane. It just is. It's government ownership of the means of production. The last time I checked, is part of the definition of socialism.
Well, that's what Zoran Mamdani's talked about.
That's exactly right. It doesn't make a difference if the government wants to own a grocery store, or if the government wants to own a critical minerals mine company, or if the government wants to own a chip company. Government ownership of the means of production is socialism. And one of the things I worry about with my Republican friends is, folks, when you go to attack Zoran Mamdani for being a socialist, and he turns around and says, you're doing the same thing, what are you going to say? Oh, chips are different? And then have him say, well, what's more important, chips or food? I mean, we lose on this argument. And again, to your point, I know you said it tongue in cheek. We don't teach economics like we don't teach civics, so people don't know what socialism is. But I got news for you. This is what it is.
I'll give you and Trump has publicly condescended the CEO of Intel. So it's interesting to do this kind of 180 and then also watch how they're going to move forward with this conversation and how you defend it. I think when I look about it, the first person I thought about was Joe Rogan, because he's somebody who supported Bernie Sanders, and then also, switch parties. And people say the biggest switch is easy from someone like that to someone like Mamdani, and then somebody like a really extreme Republican. So maybe I'm starting to see the connection more than the Republican Party wants to admit.
I'm just pointing out the similarities here. This is a report, but the Pentagon has already taken a stake in another company, MP Materials, so it's not crazy to think that this could happen. By the way, Intel, $100 billion company, the stock popped during the market and after the market about 10%. That is a $10 billion or so move. Mick Mulvaney, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Lindsey Granger, see you on the other side. Still to come tonight here on the Hill. Is it California screaming?
It's not complicated. We're doing this in reaction to a president of the United States that called a sitting governor of the state of Texas and said, find me 5 seats.
He went before the cameras today. Governor Newsom unveiling his plan to try to counter Texas. A new election in the state of California. Is that coming? And why is he writing in all caps? Other side.
NewsNation tomorrow. All eyes are on Alaska for the Trump-Putin summit. We're live on the ground all day. Special primetime coverage starting at 6/5 Central. NewsNation with every moment of this high-stakes event. The Trump-Putin summit tomorrow on NewsNation.
Governor of the Golden State certainly seems as though he's getting in the mud. Gavin Newsom says he's going to fight fire with fire by redistricting California. Pulling a little bit of a Texas two-step, but he says there's a difference.
We didn't receive a phone call from the President of the United States to then quietly go in the back room and start drawing maps and legislatively try to jam them through against the consent of the people. We're doing precisely the opposite. We're putting the maps on the ballot, and we're giving the power to the people.
A new approach from the party that once claimed, when they go low, we go high. Now it seems like if you can't beat them, join them. And now Governor Newsom has taken it a step further, calling for a November special election on his redistricting plan.
We have got to meet fire with fire. It's not complicated. We're doing this in reaction to a president of the United States that called a sitting governor of the state of Texas and said, find me 5 seats.
That press conference ending just a little while ago, but it followed a 48-hour social media blitz in which Newsom went full Trump. Now President Trump might have bigger fish to fry with his big summit around the corner, but he also wouldn't be President Trump if he didn't comment. Asked about crime in D.C., the president defended his takeover in L.A.
Los Angeles, you take a look. If we didn't go to Los Angeles to help this incompetent governor and a mayor that doesn't know what the hell she's doing, if we didn't go to Los Angeles, you wouldn't have a big part of it burned down. The other part of it would have burned down, too.
Full panel here with me now. Scott Bolden back with me once again, NewsNation political contributor. Elizabeth Pitko is here. She is the former spokesperson for the Republican National Committee. Lindsey Granger, of course, co-host of Rising on the Hill. And Lance Trover, former spokesperson for Doug Burgum's presidential campaign. Hello to you all. Thanks for being here. Gavin Newsom did a pretty big thing today, really in the last couple days. Here's the thing. Texas did its redistricting. Y'all loved it. Y'all hated it. Gavin Newsom's doing it. You're going to love it, and they're going to hate it. Anybody take objection to what I just said?
It's still a race to the bottom, though. I don't think I support
it. But nobody takes objection to what I just said, though.
Well, no? I'm objecting. I'm objecting, saying I think both are wrong to do this. You could have 500 or 600 House of Representatives when it's all said and done, if all 5 or 6 or 8 states play this game. And so I don't think it makes sense. What I do agree with Gavin Newsom is this whole thing of going high versus low. We just elected a guy that plays low ball.
That was the old Michelle Obama quote. When they go low, exactly. We go high. And now your party's pulled a
now we're going to try something different. We're going to go low too. So and see what happens.
Did Texas Republicans just throw California Republicans under the bus?
I don't think they did. I think they started what's going to be a very long journey for all of us for the next couple of months. I don't think this is going to stop in California. And I think they were smart enough to be prepared for that. Nobody thought that they were just going to have this happen in California or New York or someone else wouldn't respond.
Well, Newsom is calling this the election rigging response. And so he says in 2030 he's going to go back to having, apolitical legislators bring this back to the census.
But that's the thing. If it's an election rigging response, then you're election rigging. And it's like...
Right. We want to have, it's not going to a race to see who could be the least Democratic. So I totally agree with you in saying that we don't want to be in that game. That's not the type of fight that you want to fight fire with fire about being undemocratic, right?
And but he's really you should fight fire with fire.
Yeah, well, in many instances, like those tweets, hilarious. Okay. The taco thing, hilarious.
But I thought it was interesting. There's a poll out this morning. 2/3 of voters in California say they oppose changing the system because they've already spoken twice to this issue. The voters are the ones who put this independent commission into place. So I think this is going to be a little more difficult for him than he may think.
But they have an option. He's presenting it to the table to say, vote on this and tell me how you feel. Unlike in Texas, they're not even asking people what they want. And 95% of Texas's growth has been of people of color in the last few years, which is not represented whether they go left or right.
Who are not
in
registered.
any change. Right. It doesn't really affect the map at all. And
but
so that's been the biggest discrepancy.
What else can the Democrats do about this Texas two-step and adding these 5 seats? They have no choice but to go to the bottom and fight low. Because if you just sit back and say, well, we're going to do a memo because we're going to be right on this issue and we're going to keep our integrity and put integrity in politics, there's no integrity in politics left.
I want to show what Newsom's been doing. First post, all caps. Liberation Day is tomorrow. This is from his press office, but obviously he blesses this. Show the next one, all caps. You can read it there on the screen, but you know what he's trying to do here? He's mimicking, he's mocking, he's whatever you want the adjective to be, Elizabeth, Donald Trump. And I guess the question is this effective? We all know he's running for president. Is this effective?
I personally don't think it is. I'm not a Democrat. I wouldn't be voting for him anyway. But look, everyone's trying something new. He's actually not the first to use what's happening in Texas, right? Pritzker did it first, and a bunch of Democrat lawmakers in Texas kind of fell for it and stood behind him as he launched his own presidential campaign. So everyone kind of sees through it. Everyone, including Democrats, knows this man is running.
Wait, we have talked about him every single day for the most part since he started tweeting all caps or Xing, whatever you call it these days.
He's putting stuff out there that sort of makes you talk about now.
So it's effective then. That's the definition of effective.
It lacks authenticity, though. People, to your point, people try to do this all the time. It completely lacks authenticity. Find your own shtick. Why does everybody try to copy Donald Trump?
Have you looked at your president who you elected?
Hey,
are you authentic?
I'm just saying.
He is the least authentic president in the history. Well, this is who he is.
Whether you love him or hate him.
He is the most authentic. That's my whole point. But here's the thing. Gavin Newsom, he's trying to run for president, but what he's going to find out is, and he's going to go through this whole thing, I said this to you off camera, I don't think he's liberal enough for the party. So he's going to be one of 50 other people running for office. But this party is moving into the Mamdanis of the world, not Gavin Newsom. That's what he's going to be up against next year.
80% of America is between the far left and the far right. You just hear more about the far left and far right. Most of them are in the middle and want the basic and put basic services and prices down and a strong economy to educate their kids and get good health care. That's where America is, and that's where Newsom is.
And I do agree that why Mamdani has even gotten popular was because he spoke to the same exact issues that President Trump did in a totally different way, right? Totally different policies, but they both spoke to touching the pocketbook, to helping people bring down credit card debt.
He's a socialist.
You could argue what
is Donald Trump? He may not be a socialist, but he's a lot of other things.
With intel and everything. I'll give you the last word here.
So much to say. Look, I think you're right that 80% of the country is not there. Unfortunately, 80% of the country, the ones that are focused on putting food on the table, that's not who votes in primaries. And primaries are really based on far-left voters and far-right voters electing who they want. I do not think Gavin Newsom's going to win. And you said it's effective, right? He's getting attention. But that's the reason people are looking into him and why he's not going to win.
On Kalshi and Polymarket, which are the betting markets, Democratic nominee, Newsom at the top in both, 20% on Kalshi, 19% on Polymarket. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
That means I'm right, right?
Leave it there. Other side of the break, a big milestone today, 90 years of Social Security. The president marking that as well. You just heard from the left and the right. I'm going to tell you on the other side of the break why the left and the right are very much involved here. And coming up on Elizabeth Vargas Report, she'll be talking to the independent journalist Michael Schnellenberger about homelessness. You just saw that Joe Khalil video, what's going on here in Washington. That's coming up 7 minutes away. My take and what is trending on the other side of the break. Just getting home, trying to catch up on the day's news. Here's just some of what is trending right now on thehill.com. First one is obvious, right? About 24 hours away until Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin face-to-face, Anchorage, Alaska. Our coverage tomorrow, of course, you're going to want to check that out. Next story here, really two stories that are not going away anytime soon. Jeffrey Epstein battle set to reignite in Congress. You're going to start to hear more of this in the upcoming weeks. And then how about this one? Anna Paulina Luna says lawmakers have evidence of, quote, interdimensional beings. To check out those stories and more, all you have to do is scan the QR code on your screen or head on over to thehill.com. All right, time for my take now. And you can make it 90 years for what's been described for a while now as the third rail of politics. The Social Security Administration, check this out, posting this photo today of Ida Mae Fuller of Ludlow, Vermont, receiving the first Social Security check. That security blanket for so many now up and running for 9 decades. President Trump in the Oval celebrating that today as well.
Americans paid into the system, and they deserve leaders in Washington who are going to protect the benefits they've had and protect Social Security.
Now, I mentioned the third rail of politics. Trump today trashed Joe Biden for the state of the system. Democrats want you to believe that Trump is gutting Social Security. But here's the reality, as this is way too important for so many. This is the reality. If nothing changes by 2033, the Social Security Trust Fund starts to run dry. It means benefits will be somewhere around 80 cents on the dollar. I went back and looked at it today. The prediction at the turn of this century, so 25 years ago, was that wouldn't happen until 2037. Translation, the last 3 Republican and the last 3 Democratic administrations have all punted, all of them, on serious and meaningful reform. I leave you with this to consider tonight, no matter who you are or how old or young you may be. I recently had a sitting member of Congress tell me that they don't envy whoever wins the 2028 presidential election. Why, you might ask? Because, as they put it, the victor will likely be the one to finally have to take this issue head on. That is what is before whoever is the next president of the United States. But as for this one, and the current one, it's going to be a big day in politics tomorrow.